newspapers until we got wind of how His Excellency the President had viewed the Anas expose, which covers the football fraternity, and the fact that based upon what he had witnessed in that footage, he had called for the arrest of Mr. KWESI Nyantakyi. That news took all of us by surprise. But further and better particulars of that story started coming in, considering the fact that an arrest warrant had been issued for Mr. KWESI Nyantakyi in absentia. That is to say, the man was not in Ghana. People started questioning the motive behind the issuance of that arrest, considering that the man was not in town. Could the president have waited for Mr. KWESI Nyantakyi to get to town to order for his arrest? Then, Mr. KWESI Kokubako started also raising issues about the breach of confidence exhibited by the presidency, considering they were afforded that opportunity to watch the footage with some agreement not to disclose, and that the action by the presidency amounts to a breach of confidence. That matter was also being discussed. Only for some amount of money to start coming up that Mr. KWESI Nyantakyi had alleged that he could pay some 5 million to His Excellency the President, some 3 million to the Vice President, and some others as well, which got social media buzzing this week. Now on social media, if you say high five to anybody, they respond high 3. But the norm had been a high five to a high 5. Equally, the cartoonist also took to work, drawing cartoons of His Excellency the President in the pocket of Mr. KWESI Nyantakyi. He got to town, he was invited by the CID, he was searched, he was granted bail, and now the matter is brewing. What at all is in there? That is to be found with respect to the Anas expose and the concerns that have been raised by the BBC, the concerns that have been raised by the Tiger Eye and Mr. Malik Kokubako. These are the issues that have dominated the conversation throughout the entire week. But as always, we take the time to go through these issues, select a few of them, bring them, table them, and we discuss them dispassionately with nothing but the truth at the back of our minds. That's what we do here on Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. Here, we don't mince words. We say it as it is, and we bring in the tangents that are easily lost out in the conversation. And if they are not lost out, we bring them to the fore. As always, I'll take you through the headlines of the newspapers this morning before we set the tone for the conversation this morning. And if you read the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper, the story of Anas, Mr. KWESI Nyantakyi, the presidency still trending. Daily Guide has on its front page why Anas video shown to Nana Kokubako fires. Alabi jabs Mahama. Navy arrests 3 fuel smugglers. And Bogosuroban killed in Accra. That's on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper. The Daily Graphic has got a very interesting picture on its front page. It has a picture of Mr. KWESI Nyantakyi wishing that he was showcasing trophies with a smile. That's on the front page of the paper. And it says, Anas's number 12 expose, bad publicity for me. I should have been receiving trophies. That's according to Mr. KWESI Nyantakyi.
I love
Incest. Father defiles daughters 10 and 14, impregnates 1. Join fight against corruption, Ayokoboche tells Ghanaians on AU Day. That's the front page stories of the Daily Graphic newspaper. The Spectator has on its front page a lady by name Ishen. Very pretty. Could be my sister. Ishen out with I want. And we've got a picture of the lady on the front page of the Spectator. Patrick Mensah, the amputee with music dexterity. Don't use palm oil as first aid. Pediatrician advises mothers. That's all on the front page of the Spectator newspaper. The Ghanaian Times newspaper has on its front page, government to intensify anti-corruption war, Ayoko Boche. 109 galamseyers fined 1.3 million Ghana cedis for destroying Zupila Forest Reserve. Ghana card registration begins on Monday. AMA takes 200 beggars off the streets. Take firm stance against legalization of homosexuality. Christian Council says so. That's on the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. And this morning, the issues we are discussing are these. We will seek to critically analyze the fallout of the Anas video, the CID invitation of GFA boss, the Deputy Minister of Roads, and the surge of corruption and the current NPP administration. We would also seek to discuss thoroughly the significance of the African Union in the contemporary area and how the total liberation of the continent must be a concern to every African and related matters. We will also, if we have time, discuss the Kelly GVG contract signed by the Ministry of Communications and Matters Arising. And to help me discuss these issues, Mr. KWESI Jr. is the managing editor of the Insight newspaper, Professor Nino DOWUONA, senior lecturer at the University of Ghana, Legon, Ambassador Sampi YalleY, former High Commissioner to India, and legal practitioner, lawyer GODWIN EDUDZI TAMAKLOE. They will help me discuss these issues. My name is Samuel Ishen, and the pleasure is all mine to welcome you to today's edition of the show. We will start off with the matter of the presidency, the GFA, and the Anas expose. And I want to start with lawyer GODWIN EDUDZI TAMAKLOE. But let me state that this show is very interactive. Your thoughts, your views, and your comments play a very important role. And so we also encourage you to send us your thoughts, your views, and your comments. And you can do so on Twitter and then on Facebook. For both Facebook and Twitter, kindly look for the handle at Samuel Ishen GH. At Samuel Ishen GH. Ishen is spelled E-S-H-U-N. And it's all spelled together, like one word. Samuel Ishen GH. Find me on Facebook, on Twitter. You add me, and then you start sending your comments through. I'll be able to read them only if you add me, especially on Facebook. Twitter, send them coming through, and I will read them. We're live as well on most of our affiliates across the country. But if you're unable to monitor us live on any of these affiliates across the country, simply just go to the Google Play Store and search for Radio Gold 90.5. You see the application, install it on your phone, and you'll be able to monitor us live on that platform. Equally, can you listen to us live on the TuneIn application? Just search for Radio Gold 90.5, and you will be able to listen to us live as well. And there are other platforms that you can monitor us live on, but as we progress, we'll tell you about these platforms. One of them being PAB-MC GH, which is on Facebook, that you can watch us live on. I come straight to lawyer GODWIN EDUDZI TAMAKLOE on the presidency, the GFA, and the Anas expose. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, and let me use this opportunity quickly to say a very good morning to my two senior, I would say my fathers, my very learned senior Ambassador Sampi YalleY, and then the professor himself, Professor Nino DOWUONA.
Don't mention it here.
I understand now Oli has another name. Oli GVG.
Our accolades are but the master of all is the Wonder Club of Ghana.
And then another one is Oli Anas.
Oh, is that right?
You can never tell.
No, but just stick to the Wonder Club of Ghana. We tread where angels fear.
You. And it's always a great pleasure to sit in the company of this great man.
Thank you.
It's always a great pleasure. Once a professor, always a professor.
Is that right?
Yes. Let me also say good morning to you, the people watching on Facebook Live, and the cherished listeners of Alhaji Alhaji. It's a court. Alhaji and Alhaji. There are some people who, if they do not listen to Alhaji Alhaji on Saturday, they are never free. And quickly, may I use this opportunity to say and wish all my Muslim brothers and sisters who are in this difficult and trying moment of fasts. It is my prayer that Allah Almighty will be with them and see them through. It's also my prayer and belief that as we wish them the very best, they are also committing this republic into the hands of Allah Almighty. I have some very good friends on the Facebook, colleague comrades, who are holding the fort against the marauding MPP social media activists. I would not want to mention them, there are too many. I just want to acknowledge the invaluable contribution they are. Sometimes I just wish that every appointee previous who is able should have at least a Twitter or Facebook account. Periodically, that person should be able to put out what he did or did not do in office. It helps to correct the narrative on Facebook. I want to also say, now that it is evidently clear that His Excellency former President John Dramani Mahama is staging a comeback, it's important that we dwarf this particular administration with the very good things that we did whilst in office. Our achievements towers. In fact, it trumps the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo administration. They will struggle to even match. Now, with this said, I want to say that if you look at the 2016 campaign, it was fought on two principal grounds: corruption, perception of it, and economic management. Now you notice that then candidate Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo made it a point, with the assistance of the media, to create a certain incorruptibility and to tell the good people of Ghana that he is not corrupt. Now he now proceeds to assail the reputation of the then administration. And what he did was to catalog certain infractions, allegations of same, and in some instances, complete falsehood for the purposes of political power. Let me also let listeners know, and if they do recall, that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in one of the instances in Kumasi, even said that he is not going to allow the white blah 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 to award contracts, and proceeded to say that over $10 million has been awarded as contract for the printing of presidential diaries. Immediately, that allegation, he was called to straight proof to provide evidence of that contract up to date. Even now that he's president, he's yet to provide that $10 million contract for the printing of diaries. Now, it is also within this same mantra of incorruptibility and that the previous administration was corrupt. That is what resulted in the establishment of the office of the special prosecutor. The view, because as at that time, there were significant agencies of state with clear mandate. In fact, if you look at sections 2 of the EOCO Act, it is clear that the EOCO has, under the direction of the Attorney General, the power to investigate and prosecute all crimes bordering on finances. And that includes any allegation of corruption. So therefore, the decision to create the Office of Special Prosecutor to do the very same thing, to many was just a duplication of roles. But the president indicated that to show that he is the one who is coming to eradicate corruption in our body politics, he was coming with that office. Regardless, the office came into being, and so far we have seen how active they have been. Now, it is important to also, in laying the background, say that the MPP administration, or then MPP in opposition, decided to use every issue and to create corruption around it. So whether it was the purchase of T-Row for a ministry, it was corruption. And Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo himself led the charge. Among others, his infamous allegation that the Rich Hospital project, the expansion project, the contract had been inflated. Today, having become president of the Republic of Ghana, one would expect that he will give us the value of that inflation. 1 year, almost 6 months into his administration, he has abandoned that allegation. In fact, what is even more curious is that he had gone ahead to put his name on that structure, a structure he claimed that this construction was riddled with inflation of the project cost. Beyond that, if you recall, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo went ahead to say that the Kasua interchange project was equally riddled with inflated project costs. Same with that of the Circle interchange. One's expectation is that having become president, at least he will come with that investigation that provides clearly the basis of that allegation, and same has not been done. One comes to that irresistible conclusion that with the benefit of leadership and having had the opportunity to now see the records, he himself has abandoned those spurious allegations of corruption. In fact, it is so wrong that he, being a senior lawyer, one of the things that you'll be cautious about is assailing the reputation of people without any evidential basis. But partisan politics will not allow him to go on that line. So the best thing to do for the sake of convenience was to make all forms of allegation, corruption, criminality against the previous administration. Even mighty in all of this is the car power transaction, if you recall, where my own brother, Afenyo Maki, senior in law, and the MPP MP for Kufuor, Honorable Osiasibe, decided to take the car power project to the Supreme Court to challenge its constitutionality. I recall then Deputy Attorney General, in the midst of ensuring that we resolve the debilitating power crisis, had to go to Turkey to convince the Turkish, business people that there was no problem and that the car power project must come. This was the extent to which the MPP, in the name of destroying everything, went. And so sometimes when I hear these same people destroy others in the name of partisan politics, it pains me a lot. Today, as we speak, the MPP has not only, or they are not only benefiting from the car power project, but they have extended the tenure. They have extended it. A thing you went to court to stop, today you are extending it. And that is why a senior man once told me that, EDUDZI, always have this thing written on your heart, that time is never a friend of any man. Because time would expose you when you least expect. And that's time. Today, as we speak, the Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana, in his legal opinion, after the Energy Minister, and I pray the NDC administration, the next NDC administration, to investigate the Energy Minister, Boakye Ejako, the reckless manner in which he decided to stop the payment to Ameri for work done in the name of investigation. The Attorney General, in her legal opinion, rebuked the Energy Minister that singular conduct by him amounts to a breach of the Ameri transaction, and that entitles the Ameri group to abrogate the contract and take their equipment away. The burden will now be to the Republic of Ghana by way of judgment debt and additional costs. Even as we speak, government would have to pay Ameri more for the failure to pay. That loss should be investigated one day, so that the energy minister who decided to do that without even seeking advice from the attorney ought to be investigated. This little conduct, the state incurs money. Public officers are not surcharged for such reckless conduct. The Attorney General had come to that irresistible conclusion that the Ameri transaction had no criminality, either by way of fraud or anything attached to it. Irresistible conclusion. And that is coming not from Honorable Marietta, but the Honorable Attorney General, Miss Gloria Efua Ekufo. And the opinion is there. It's not a matter of public discussion. You can't run away from it. And so many other allegations of corruption that have proven not to be true. Having said this, it's important that a government that came on the back of fighting corruption would demonstrate a greater commitment to the fight against corruption. But the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo administration and his men have failed this litmus test. Today, the allegations of corruption, the corruption-related scandal, they come in daily. So it is one day, one scandal. One day, one corruption. Instead of this government providing us with one district, one factory, it is now one day, one corruption. And that is how spectacular this administration had failed in the fight against corruption. Now, the mother of it all is this Anas expose, where on this video recording, no less a person than Mr. KWESI Nyantakyi, a very senior lawyer as that, is heard making the claim that it is easier to do business in Ghana, and that the ease of doing business in Ghana is not because it is so easier to register your company at the Registrar General Department. That the ease of doing business in Ghana is not because there's available power or the road infrastructure or social infrastructure is the best. That the ease of doing business in Ghana is not because, as a people, collectively, we have worked for this relative peace and stability that we are enjoying in this country. However, the ease of doing business in this country is on the sole basis that our president is corruptible. And that our president, with the benefit of giving him $5 million, that our vice president, I pray he's doing the fast now, with the benefit of $3 million, should be willing to engage you in any manner. But you see, what is curious in all of this, and for me, the reason why I cannot disbelieve Mr. KWESI Nyantakyi is that he comes across as very credible. Credible in the sense that, one, he's a very good friend of His Excellency the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Within NPP cycles and within more or less the legal fraternity, it is not wrong to suggest that Mr. Nyantakyi is Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's small boy. There is no doubt at all that my very senior KWESI Nyantakyi has a very close and cozy relationship with our president. He's the type that our president can pick a phone and call unlike you and I. Very, very close. In fact, during the inauguration, immediately the president warned. Among the very few people to go and obviously congratulate him is my very good senior KWESI Nyantakyi. So the background that I've said is that KWESI Nyantakyi comes across as a very credible person who, unlike EDUDZI, may want to engage in political mischief against the president. So the background is clear that the relationship between Mr. KWESI Nyantakyi and our president is a very good one, a very cordial one. So when he proceeds to say that our president appreciates 5 million and that he is corruptible to the extent that if you give him $5 million, whatever you want, foreign or potential investor, he is willing to help you out. That our vice president, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, with 3 million, he is willing to help you with anything that you want. And in fact proceeds to say that he could help them in getting road contract and that all the road minister needs is $2 million and the deputy $1 million. Hence the formation 5321, a very defensive minded formation. Now if you pick all of this together, one comes to the conclusion that a very close friend to the president is telling us about his character, that he is very corruptible, that if you give him $5 million, he is willing to do anything for you. But you see, in measuring character, you know character evidence, my very senior here will tell you, is that you want to do a certain background check, previous conduct, and maybe the person's conduct going forward to come to a certain or to draw inferences. If you recall, Honorable Ken Ejapong on one of the Adom TV programs, and he repeated same on his own platform, Oman FM Boiling Point, he made the categorical statement that persons close to the president, presidential staffers, if they want you to see the president, all that you need to do is to give them $20,000. So that having given them the $20,000, they would give you access to the president. We thought that should be the end of it. Then came the almighty presidential access fee, $100,000. So you have a situation that looking at the previous conduct by persons associated with the president and matters involving him himself, one comes, or it is legitimate to draw the inference that our president is corrupt, or the persons associated with him believe that he is corrupt. And this is not what EDUDZI or the NDC is saying. Ken Ejapong, the last time I checked, is not an NDC member. Then came the serious allegation from my very good brother, Kwame A+. He indicts 2 of the deputy chief of staffs working for the president. And the last time I checked, my brother Kwame A+ is not a member of the National Democratic Congress, so that you can say, and in fact, he actively campaigned for His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So from this character and these testimonies from persons associated with him, persons who are in the MPP, they should know him better. And like they can say, if the crocodile comes from or whatever, or maybe to say that this is what is happening in the water body, who is EDUDZI to doubt it? So I want to rely on these testimonies from these persons associated with the president. So this Anas expose, and the reason why the president decided to take this preemptive strike is that having watched the video and having analyzed his own previous conduct, allowing Anas Aremina Anas to air this on the 7th, it was going to be explosive. So then the president decided to take this preemptive strike to now appear as the one who is not in favor of or is somebody against corruption or wrongdoing. And unfortunately, in this bizarre attempt to make the president look good, they have rather failed spectacular. Look, what did my good friend and senior Samuel Abujinapo, Deputy Chief of Staff, say? That the president being the custodian of the laws of this country. I do not want to doubt the president. Yes, the foremost Ghanaian citizen. He should be one to help in fighting corruption in this country. However, the manner in which the release came, that the president has ordered the arrest. Obviously, the president does not have any power of arrest. We have been told that the president only said he should be investigated. Why? Why is the president in hurry, supersonic manner, to appear as the one fighting corruption? No. There had been very serious allegations of corruption, and he's never called the police to investigate. In fact, the time that he had tried, what happened was a very clear case of clearing. I find it curious that if this matter or the announced expose involves matters concerning corruption, bribery, or attempt to influence a public officer or not, why is the president or has the president lost confidence in the office of the special prosecutor? Because clearly the mandate of the special prosecutor is to fight corruption. Rather, what the president and his assigns and agents have decided to do is to refer the matter to the police CID. I do not want to say that at least the last time we checked from the A+ expose and the audio recording that came into the public, I have a difficulty why the CID should be the one doing this. Look, at this point, it is fair to conclude that our president's name had come up. His vice president's name had come up. That of the minister for roads had come up. His deputy, my very good brother, Anthony Cabo, had come in. So if all these individuals, their name and their executive branch, if there is a body with a certain independence, and I mean here the Office of Special Prosecutor, that body ought to be the reference point and not the police CID. So for me, the attempt by the president to reference this to the CID instead of the special prosecutor comes to me not only bizarre, but a clever attempt to achieve another cleanup. Whitewash the president. Like Jesus said, whitewash graves, inside is full of dead man bones. The allegations of corruption, the corruption going on under this nepotistic administration is mind-boggling. The evidence today about this administration is assigns and agents. They are involving in one act of corruption or the other, infraction of procurement laws in this country. I mean, it's just shocking. And so this clever attempt to whitewash the president, to make him look like the one who is fighting corruption, Ghanaians must be wide awake to this reality. The president has nothing to do as far as this announced expose is concerned. In fact, if there is anything, the president's friends, the likes of Mr. Kwame Sefakai, Abdul Malik Kwekubaku, who clearly has a certain amount of influence over Anas Aremia Anas, having trained under him, clearly used his association with the president to give him the opportunity to watch the video. Without more. So that if there is anything, the president would take this preemptive strike like he has rightly done. So may we not be confused at all that this expose, the president of the Republic of Ghana has anything to do with it. No, this is a BBC wider campaign to fight corruption within the football cycle. And you remember, in France, FIFA agents were arrested in the US, then under Attorney General Lynch, and what have you. So that is the conclusion. The president has nothing to do with it at all. So I beg to differ. When I hear people say, oh, the president has shown that he's willing to fight corruption, no, he has nothing. In fact, the persons that are in his government, that he has control over, he is shielding them. Today, as we speak, in the midst of all this brouhaha, Nana 5, Bawumia 3, and what have you, what we are rather seeing is the daily free fall of corruption. Last Thursday, I had cause to engage the PRO of the National Health Insurance Authority right on this platform, where the Auditor General had come to that irresistible conclusion that the decision by the authority through its chief executive officer to sole source over 11 million Ghana cedi contracts to auditing or accounting firms was done in breach of the Public Procurement Act. Why? As we speak, people are being prosecuted in court now for breach of the Procurement Act. So if the Auditor General had come to that conclusion, that the manner in which the contract of 11 million Ghana cedis was awarded to the audit firm, Okansi and Associates, breaches the Public Procurement Act or violates same, then the president should do the needful by asking for their prosecution immediately. There are other confidential memos that have said between lawyers and the authority where they were advised or objected to these contracts, that these contracts were engaged in without recourse to the lawyers within the National Health Insurance. Those evidence is there. If today the president is prosecuting others in court for procurement infractions, the president should demonstrate leadership by prosecuting his own people. As for prosecuting former NDC appointees, you can always do that for partisan political reasons. But prosecuting your own is a greater demonstration. A man who goes to other people's house, chastise their children, what is it? When his own children are doing the very things that he's criticizing the children of others. It's like your pastor who comes to preach to you every morning to be of good behavior, and you see that the son is doing exactly what he's preaching against. You'd want to say that you don't want to take a moral lesson from a brothel. Our president, Mr. President, with the greatest respect to the office you occupy, please, 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 in the name of God Almighty, demonstrate a greater resolve by calling your erring appointees to order. Just mounting platform and criticizing the previous administration is not enough. In fact, it's a coward way of governance. Demonstrate that commitment by calling your own erring and prosecuting them. Look, as we speak, we are having to deal with the dubious $179 million contract with Kenny GBG. And in fact, if you read the contract document, it beats your imagination. To the extent that today we are having to pay or have paid this company $7.5 million for what work done. No work done. Right. Meanwhile, we are prosecuting former board members of NC for $4 million, even for equipment that were delivered. Equipment delivered. this one, for no work done, $7.5 million. And we are watching, Mr. President, with the greatest respect to the office you occupy. The Anas Aremeyao Anas expose had further brought to fore your true character that Ghanaian media, some section of the Ghanaian media, had kept from the electorate. People close to you say that with the benefit of $5 million, that's your true character. You are willing to meet investors and do anything. But before I conclude, Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority Workers Union have come out to say that their board chairman, Mr. Peter McMahon, the campaign manager of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in the 2016 election, is giving out contracts to the extent that his own wife's company that is into travel and tour, she is trading with the company or the public company that the husband is the board chair. And when the man is called to respond, he says the company has 35 years record. He does not deny that the wife is actually, he had procured the services of the wife to supply ticketing and airline business with Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority. The man does not deny, only to say that the company has 35 years record. So the man admits glaring issue of conflict of interest.
All right.
Just 1 minute, so I'll conclude on it.
That's right.
If you put the president's own conduct of surrounding himself with family, friends, baby mamas, and what have you, the president has lost the moral authority to call his own appointees to order. Because, you see, what will be the basis for the president to say, Mr. McMahon, don't give this contract to your wife, when he himself has appointed his own daughter into government, when he himself has surrounded himself with his own close relations? Why? What will be the moral authority of my very senior, Osafo Mafo, to call Peter McMahon to order as senior minister, when he himself had gotten his two sons juicy positions within the public service? So when you put all of this, our president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has lost the moral authority to call his appointee. You remember the Minister for Fisheries, when the brother, as head of the National Premise Fuel whatever committee, it came out that 22 million Ghana cedi worth of premise were diverted and stolen. Public funds, 22 million. How can the president call the MP for Crowell, the minister, to order, when the president himself has surrendered himself? So the moral authority by the president to call his own appointees, the man has eaten it off.
All right. Lawyer, thank you for your submission this morning on the show. That brings us to 20 minutes to the top of the hour. 10 here on your power station, Radio Gold 90.5 FM. This is Alhaji Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. Your thoughts, your views, and your comments, very much welcome. Send them to us on Facebook and Twitter using the handle at Samuel Ishan GH. I'll come straight to you, Ambassador Sampiale, for your comments on our first topic, the presidency, the GFA, and the ANAS expose.
Well, good morning, fellow panelists, and to our brothers and sisters who are the Muslim brothers and sisters. I say Salaam Alaikum, and hope that you are doing very well with your fasting as the days go by. But I am commending to you that if you break your fast and you want anything to drink, don't go anywhere. Take the Tango fruit juices. They are the best on the market now. They are the best on the market now. So please go for them.
Does he have your authority to promote?
But I have.
In fact, I am taking mine after next grade.
It was at my uncle's funeral last 2 weeks. It was at my uncle's funeral last 2 weeks. I saw that.
KWESI, do you agree?
KWESI doesn't have to disagree or agree. But I'm saying that empirically, I have used it at my uncle's funeral. Last 2 weeks, I told you that the patronage was very, very good.
Excellent.
So, my Muslim brothers, I commend
In fact,
you.
I'm even taking mine.
Take yours. It's good.
Guys, you have business that I don't know.
Mr. Shan, this company, I don't even know where they are, but I like their products. Okay. Mr. Shan, it's becoming very, very obvious that whenever the NPP said in opposition, they were giving Ghanaians the indication of what they know how to do best when it comes to anything to deal with corruption. Many Ghanaians did not heed the hauling contract certificate to also haul cocoa beans for CMB. So it's like all the noise that the NPP was making in opposition, they just wanted to push off the NDC government and for them to come and occupy what they have to occupy. But no wonder they said they were coming to occupy Ghana. Today, as we speak, many persons who have no business at all whatsoever to deal with our public service are now the special assistants, special spokesman and movement in the public services. This was the job NPP was commissioned to create. Yesterday, I was listening to a debate, Mr. Chen, and I said, may God bless this country. Because this was an NP, sitting on television and thinking or believing that all the viewers viewing his comment, were as stupid as I am. That all the people that were listening to him were as stupid as I am. Because he was not addressing any of the questions put to him by the host. All that he was trying to say is, oh, we have done the best. That the company was not doing well, and then we have changed it, and we are going to do it better. We are going to save the country money. And the man asked, how much were you going to save the country? And so that one, the specialist will come to it.
So how did you come to that?
So how did you come to that conclusion? But this is not strange, Mr. EDUDZI. In the moment our home president, when he went and he was being asked about how to fund the JSS, senior high school, he said, oh, this one, they have not been costed and be. So it's no strange. Now, Mr. Shen, it is not strange, therefore, that as at today, Prof, you are in the education sector, that we don't have any policy paper guiding the junior high school and the senior high school concept.
Precisely.
We've put that whole future of the young generation on autopilot. No direction.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Indeed, the only reason they started this junior high school or senior high school concept, free senior high school concept, is for political reasons. And as was said by one of their ministers on television, that NDC should wait. When in 3 years' time, the young ones are going to vote, they will remember the good thing that NPP has done for their parents for not charging them school fees. So for them, the young students' life, education quality we have put to risk is of no essence. What is of essence is that they will come and vote for them. So, no preparation. Prof, you are in the education sector, and you have always advised that education is not an event, it's a process. Before you start a new program, you want to see that your infrastructure is good, your dining facility, library, and everything is good before you start a program. But in this flagship program of the NPP, the senior high school, it has nothing of quality. Nothing. No plan, no procedures, all is that, go and implement it. So if it's a forward-looking country, the student that died at Accra Kumasi Academy, somebody would have been charged with corporate negligence. because they did not prepare properly for that program and just put the children in that camp, and some of them died.
And it's happening all over.
And it's happening all over. If it's a country that deals with law and order, some people would have been charged with corporate negligence. Mr. Esan, Arim Anas has for the past years carved a niche for himself as an investigative journalist. How he does his work, I don't know, but I am privy to some of his products. It was, I think, one of these products that was shown to Professor Mills that caused the changes in the customs and exercise. So this showing this thing to the president is not new at all, as people argue.
Different circumstances.
And I'm going to that. One of the circumstances is that President Mills was not mentioned or, shown in the videos he was asked to see. And he commissioned it. You understand? So the circumstances are far different. But in this instance, as we are dealing with, some months ago at TAMAKLOE, it was announced that something was going to happen in the football fraternity. And then all of us here, everybody listening to us, who doesn't know or believe that there's some filth in the club? Who doesn't know or believe that? We started a fight, it didn't end anywhere when Professor Mills was alive. But Anna said he has gone deep into the belly of the Ghana Football Association, and so many of them ran away. Mr. Sen, do you remember that we're going to organize a certain friendly match? And one of the conditions was that the sponsors of the friendly match were going to appoint their own referees. Prof, have you forgotten? That was a Ghana-USA friendly match. They appointed their own referee. Why should the sponsor appoint his own referee, not knowing that it was for betting and other purposes, as is being shown worldwide? Then, from nowhere, I saw it for the first time on my Facebook video. What video is this? And I saw Mr. Kwesi Yantechi claiming that, the president of this country, Eshemboto. So the new name for the president, that some people are calling him Eshemboto. And that if you want to see this president, give me this, and that. A formula shared. And people have gone to heaven and hell about these things. The issues are simple. Abu Jinapo, is it Abu Jinapo, the one at the presidency, John Abu Jinapo? If you do not know, you do not know. If you know, you know. You should know that your position as chief of staff doesn't make you a prosecutor. You should also know that there's a minister responsible for communication. You should also know that you are not the presidential spokesman. And the issues involved, one of your own colleagues, your other colleague, deputy minister, have been mentioned. So you don't have any moral justification, you Abu Jinapo, to making any press conference. And in that press conference, what my poor boy, young brother, sought to do was to try to exhibit his legal knowledge. That when the president viewed the video, he saw and came to the conclusion that the man, what is his name, Kwesi Yantechi, has committed a crime of defrauding by false pretenses. Ebe Abu Jinapo.
How can that be?
How can that be? How can that thing which you saw and which the president also amount to defrauding? Is it your political law or your lack of legal knowledge? And EDUDZI, I think we could just say that any lawyer can go to court and make a mistake using the wrong procedure or wrong law. The same charges he preferred in his press conference is what the police CID to have charged. Now, what you have done? And what you have done? You don't have any right to charge anybody. You have just seen a video. The video was not given to you. And it's like myself and your son, you understand, may God forbid, have gone to commit a crime, and knowing that you are a powerful person, you come and tell your father that, look, myself and the son went and committed some crime. So get your father to arrest the son. That's what is happening. Professor Mills' commission of the program was that he himself believed something was happening. Here, Nana Akufo-Addo did not even know, or did not believe, or did not want to know that there was something going on in the Ghana Football Association.
In fact, Senior, it has been alleged that if he knew that KWESI was under investigation, he would have prompted him.
Sir. And having failed because of that lack of that knowledge to prompt him, now you are shown a video in which KWESI Ntechi is alleging, proximity to no other person, to your good self as the president of this country. What do you do? What do you do? Are you going to order his arrest as the president of this country, or as a person who has been mentioned as an accomplice? This is the legal absurdity we are finding ourselves in this matter. And for Abu Jinapo to have put his legal credentials on the line to hold that press conference, misquoting the law and its application, is mind-boggling. Because if anything at all, what KWESI Ntechi, what the president saw, should have come under a different section of the law.
I bet extortion.
Yes, not even the extortion. It should have come under section 185 for the criminal code, that he was doing things to bring the name of the president into disrepute. And that's a second-degree felony.
Or even to influence a public officer.
Several other charges, albeit. So section 132 is there, section 185 is there, to have been used, just to establish the prima facie evidence, because the CID has not investigated. When they were caught in this legal web, you know what they are saying? Oh, we have just reported to the CID so that they can conduct their investigations. Investigations have not been conducted. You have concluded and given them a charge of defrauding by false pretenses. What is curious, like I said earlier on, is that this charge has been adopted wholly by the CID. So if, in effect, he goes to court and he's going to disprove that he has not defrauded anybody, if it is true that the money has not passed through the president because no receipt would have been collected, and therefore he'll be left off the hook. What kind of nonsense is this? What kind of stupidity do these people think that we're all stupid? See, Mr. Shah, in this country, people think that once we are in government, we are going to be there forever. But at the last count, 46 different crimes of this nature has been recorded. At appropriate time, we shall use them. President, you say that the NDC will not have anything to say in 2020. Don't worry. I told you last week that we have a lot of things to say. If you go to the National Health Insurance, there's a problem. You go to Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority, there's a problem. Anywhere you turn, there's so much corruption that is no longer corruption but contamination. Our whole system is contaminated with corruption. The whole system. Look at the fight between two compatriots, Imani and George Anda. And George Anda thinks that by shouting on us, by insulting us, we do any good to the, he does anything good to the country. I was in this studio with Mr. KWESI PRATT. When he asked the question about Suba, you remember Suba? You were the host then. KWESI was asking, what are these people supposed to be doing? Supposed to be doing? He explained and said that they had saved the country at that time 11 million cedis. Those days, up to today. They haven't told us anything wrong this Suba has done. A program they themselves have so criticized. They got the chance and then they have done it worse. Same with Ameri. Ameri, they make so much noise. But for Ameri, the doomso would have not stopped. Yet, they didn't appreciate it. I think that the office of the special prosecutor it has taken him too long to do what he has to do. Because if we need to fight corruption, we need to do something more than what we are doing now. See, Lawyer Dozie, we have to call for a public inquiry into this Anas Arimi Yao tape. Because it is not a tape in which you and I have been mentioned. It's a tape in which the president of this country has been mentioned, right? It's a tape that the vice president has been mentioned and senior ministers have been mentioned. And we all have a duty to protect the image of this country. So I call for a public inquiry. They say they are going to show the film on the 7th, on the 6th, believing that that will be the actual film, and that has not been doctored. This film should be shown on all public television stations. All public television stations. So that the people in the villages can also have access to see what is happening. Now, what the film one year or the Beyonce one. Prof, have you forgotten that just recently, somebody who claimed that he's the president of some company was running a dinner or lunch for
the presidential
access. He was also calling himself president and used the name of the president, Ashimotin, for a lot of money. When the issue came, Parliament went to it. Before the parliamentary report, the president has said, "Oh, he has done nothing wrong." Nothing wrong. Which country would this happen? That you use the name of the president, extort money from Indians and other business people, only to say that nothing has happened. So if, as Morton did that, nothing happened, what gives me the confidence that Kwesi Nkrumah wants anything will happen? What should give anybody the confidence? But long time ago, we had a song which says, "Wazeri Onuya Menkakashi." We won't say anything. We will not say anything. Now, if MPP think that they are above board, they have got a media cabal to support them. Whatever they do, they will send their serial callers to come and explain and confuse the people. But the whole return one day too soon. Say, Bibi and Tumwana, who say Bibi and Tumwa, 2020, at the whole return one. So for me, people should keep praying for this country. That one day, our political class should know the real reason why they have voted for the government. And not the naked stealing TV that is going on. Today, we don't steal in CDs, Mr. Shan, we don't steal in CDs. In millions of dollars. Remembering that my niece, Victoria Hammer, was just cautioning herself that, hey, my friend, you don't have $1 million, and you are pitching your strength against a powerful politician. We won. That was a friendly advice to a colleague. That if they sack you today, from your home you don't have anything. That thing became a scandal. A mere speculation became a scandal. They used it until that poor girl's political career was dismantled. Then came the brass branding. You remember? Brass branding was about 35,000 or something. Today, millions or in dollars. If you go to CMB, trouble. If you go to Gapoha, problems. So for me, Mr. Shen and colleagues, Ghanaians have to now be patient and very prayerful to God that this hardship of daily avalanche of corruption will come to pass by the year 2020. And that, if we ever make this mistake again, God be with us.
Thank you, Ambassador Sampiale, for your submissions. This morning, the show is proudly brought to us by TT Brothers. They are the sole distributors of Uncle T Premium Malt, which we are drinking here in the studio, non-alcoholic. malt, extra energy and vitality provides you with the best. It's best served chill, and it's available in 330 ml and is produced in Poland. Available in all leading supermarkets and stores. For bulk purchases, please contact TT Brothers Limited, located at Nungwa Barrier, Maracuja House on the Tema Beach Road, and Uncle T House of the Tema Aflao Road, and you can call them on 0303 304 481 and 050-139-6377 or 050-739-6378. Email them at generalenquiries@TT Brothers Limited. They are also the sole distributors for Uncle T Sangria wine and then Uncle T red wine. As we move along, we'll tell you much more about these two great products. I'll come straight to you, Professor Ni Noy DOWUONA.
Thank you very much. I associate myself with the initial remarks and greetings to everybody. And having been inspired by the complimentary statements on tango, I open my can and indeed I understand the spirit and the enthusiasm of the ambassador's clarion call. So tango for you then. I would like to veer off the line of submission of lawyer TAMAKLOE and then Ambassador P. YALLEY, and look at the moral and ethical issues, because there are some events in the recent past of the Ghana Football Association, and indeed in saying so, I'm very sensitive and mindful of the fact that it is somebody who happens to be the president of the Ghana Football Association on one hand, and then his personality or his person as a citizen of Ghana. And I don't think whatever the allegations are or whatever act that he was engaging was inspired by the GFA. But when you take that personality, that he holds on to that position, and that position also has enhanced his image or profile, then you draw moral issues as to the direction and of Ghana football, the management of Ghana football, and the future of Ghana football. Of course, taking note of the present state of Ghana football. The irony, there's an irony of fact that one has to bring out. You recall that until 2005 or thereabout, the position of the president or chairman, as originally known, of the Ghana Football Association was somehow through government's involvement, but still recognizing FIFA's uncompromising stand that politics must not be mixed with football, although I have questions to answer or questions to raise, because FIFA president and Blatter gave the clear expression of it. He was more like a global president. Yeah. And I always used to tease that when they say so, anytime he landed in a country, he was the first rather to exploit state protocol. Mm-hmm. And he will be picked on the tarmac and go through VIP. And those supporters of him in the federations across the world, and including ours, when it came to that, then politics has a hand in football. Because I always say, why is it that when you get to the airport, Kotoka especially, you have limousines that are there for hiring, and there are hotels all over. If you want Expo 70 at Kotobabi, or Expo 67, or Mexico Hotel at Kokomlemle, or wherever, or Hotel California, or Arms Hotel, you could get them. But then they would like the state to take care of him. So that's another matter for commentary later. You understand? So you recall that in 2004 or 2005, following years of investigation on the act of FIFA, the FBI of the US having carried out investigations on the conduct of FIFA and its operations, especially in awarding World Cup hosting rights, really pounced on FIFA, having gathered enough evidence, and we all knew what happened. It led to the crash of the global kingpin, Sepp Blatter, with his hangers on, and indeed, when they were arrested, the FIFA top executives were arrested, 12 of them were accused, and the 12 pleaded guilty when they were arraigned before court by the Internal Revenue Service Special Investigation Division, and some of them already are awaiting trial. And when the Swiss government really raided the office of FIFA, I doubted whether the mantra that politics has no hand in football, championed by Blatter at that time, played any role. But now let's come home. I indicated that this is a sensitive matter. The tidbits of the tape that will be played on the 6th of June, is that right, by Anas Arimiyao, were played to the president. And then we all read in the course of the week that arrest order was issued. We are now told, and let's believe that a report was just made. And I read a piece from Justice Mbeshot, the former chairman of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, that it may also be, and it is plausible, that the president was lodging a complaint, which anybody could. So let's take it that it's plausible, or it was really what happened. And the case is now being handled by the CID. And at the end of it, they may prefer charges or prosecute the case. And so that's a matter. And for now, I would not like to say Nyantechi had done anything wrong, or I cannot also vouch and say that he's not done anything wrong. I read something on the platform indicating a statement issued by Mr. Nyantechi. It may be wrong, pleading or rather apologizing to the president for the error he made in making that statement. If that piece was true, then it meant that he indeed made that statement about the head of state and his vice and some top government officials being in his pocket. And of course, if somebody says you are in my pocket, it's a very derogatory statement. And we don't. I always say that even giving guys sitting at a lorry station playing draft, who will not have anything to do for the rest of the day because of lack of job, even talking loosely and recklessly, we would never say, oh, this union station manager or station boss or this loading officer is in my pocket. We don't say it. So if indeed that was true, then it's most unfortunate. And perhaps the letter that he had sent to the personal letter to the president will really indicate how his remorse. But you see, where I want to take the discussion is on the current state of Ghana football. And as I indicated, until 2005, and the last to really play that role of government being influential in appointing the GFA chairman or GFA president was when Dr. Nyawo TAMAKLOE became the GFA chairman or president. And what happened was that government would nominate somebody, and Congress will endorse the fellow. So in the eyes of FIFA, or consistent with the FIFA statutes, the fellow was elected by football. If I use that word, anybody, football is a football fraternity. Then the chairman of GALCA, the Ghana League Clubs Association, would then serve as a vice. And indeed, Nyantechi used that route to become the vice during Dr. Nyawo TAMAKLOE's era. But somehow, maybe by a resolution of Congress, they decided to amend their constitution and managed to draw the current constitution that they lodged with FIFA. And during President Kufuor's time, I think Obiama was the deputy minister for sports, and whoever was the minister, I can't recall, that when that was, FIFA endorsed it and it became the order of conducting business, and that led to the election of FA President Nyantechi. And so President Kufuor's time, I think the concern came, and rightly so, and I associated myself, and I still do, that the states or the governments in Africa become the sole financiers or the majority support fund providers of football. And for that matter, they must have a role, a legitimate moral role. And I think a delegation was sent to Zurich. And that's how the Public Interest Committee came up, especially for managing national teams. And I think until somewhere in 2016 or so, and that is what is prevailing. And I think my colleagues, and some of us, are football fanatics. So we are old now, and the way the local game is destroyed, our youthful fanaticism that made us not to eat when we lost matches had gone away. And my concern is that the present young generation are Chelsea. My son is a Chelsea guy. He talks about Chelsea like many other kids. And you would think that Chelsea trains behind our compound. They are so well versed in football. They know transactions involving players who will transfer next season, etc. More than what happens at Olympics training grounds or House of Old training grounds or Kotoko training grounds. That is the state where our football is. And so, for me, I take the FA and my friend Mr. Nyantechi's current state of people who said politics didn't have a hand in football. Football belonged to football. And now football is controlled by football. Now, not distinguishing between my role as a president or the FA and my personal political inclination. As a citizen, he has equal right to belong to a political party or to dabble in the affairs of parties. And if he is a close friend to the president, there's nothing wrong. If indeed he had contributed to the organization of the party, there's nothing wrong. But then where my concern is the current state of football, and perhaps where they might have been carried over to the point that flirting with political parties, they did not know that this is how far it will come. And for me, whatever the outcome, the current state of football and the attitude, we've had experience where players insulted ministers. Some FA members will openly cast insinuations and invectives against ministers. And that's the arrogance that I come up with. But the fact of the matter is that some of us are talking as also people who are also committed to football. And we are fanatics. So we belong to the larger football fraternity. The management at the FA level, club level, but the teaming supporters, we are equal members of it. And that is what we want to say. And it's important that we recall some events. You see, the position where governments play a role, and governments still continue to play a role, because when the blasters are going to play, they send the bill to the minister. And I had to correct through, I think when Suhini was anchoring the morning show, when one FA member was saying the blasters belong to them. Of course, that matter was settled with the Justice Chamberlain Commission when the question was put to the Ministry of Youth and Sports that who owns the national team? He said, the state. But some FA member said it belonged to them, and I said, to hell. You people had gone to the FA on the ticket of clubs, and your clubs are now, some of them even like Olympics, we've gone and come, and we were gone and come, and we will come again. Some have gone and they've never come back again. And yet they have now found a safe haven in the FA and taking governments on. So regardless of whichever party is in government, I think that is one thing that we need to look at. And look, let's go back through time. The time when you have Samotri, Joe Latte, Zach Pintum, Elias Ter, Butler, TAMAKLOE, Timensa, and others. Forget about the days of Nyamite or blessed memory as FA chairman. And you saw the dignitaries that controlled club football without bothering themselves about the FA. They carried respect. The Von Bommels and Koku Tabita of with 11 Wise, the Barnier brothers of BA United, All Blacks BK Sian, George Graham of Vancoba, Kotoko BK Eduse, you see, SK Danso, Sims Mensah, Bewa, Bibi Mukazel, Assad Mala, Tommy Thompson of House of Ogo, Sekre, Tijani and others. All these people were running club football. And then all of a sudden, we have a crop. At the end of it all, we must place the current state of football at the heart of the issue that we have. As to what will come out of this matter, but for now, I think that's it.
Right. Good morning.
Well, good morning. For me, this whole matter started about 4 weeks It could be about parliament, it could be about football. So the speculation started from there. Indeed, in less than 1 week, it was confirmed that the investigation was about football, British Broadcasting Corporation, and other agencies, and that the focus was African football as an integral part of a general investigation into world football, waiting for this to happen. Various media personalities started making noises, and in the process, I think a lot was revealed. They started dropping hints about what we were likely to see, and so on. On the day that this story about the president broke, my very good friend, Kwame Sefakai of Peace FM, actually indicated that the president's name would be on the video. And it does appear that this is what instigated all of the fuss, which has led to the arrest of Mr. Nyantechi. And indeed, if that were the case, then one is bound to come to the conclusion that there was some panic, and that all of this could be the result of a panic reaction. Now, before I proceed, I think it's important for us to establish some principles. It's important also for us to do some definitions and so on. It has been said that what Anas Arimuyao Anas does is something called investigative journalism. And as a practicing journalist myself, I scoff at that definition. One, because all of journalism is investigative. There is no brand of journalism which is not investigative. All of journalism is about inquiry, finding things and confirming them. That's what journalism is about. And it seems to me that to create a special category of journalism which is called investigative journalism is extremely tautological, and it needs to be abandoned. Now, there are legal and moral issues which have been raised about this kind of work. In fact, the question has been asked whether or not entrapment should be encouraged in our affairs. Should we encourage entrapment? And for those of you who are lawyers, you do know that entrapment is frowned upon. Again, if you look at the Code of Ethics of the Ghana Journalists Association, it is clearly spelled out in the Code of Ethics of the Ghana Journalists Association that it is unethical for journalists to obtain information by subterfuge. Now, what does that mean? That means that if I present myself as coming from the Flagstaff House when I am not an employee of the Flagstaff House, and I obtain information on that basis, it is the use of subterfuge. If I make my target believe that I'm a businessman when I'm not, and I'm only practicing my journalism, it is also a case of subterfuge. But you see, in all of these discussions, there are several principles and ethical standards that we need to combine in order to be fair to Anas Arimuyao Anas, to be fair to all those who have been caught on tape over the years of his work. And I refer particularly to Watergate, to the Watergate scandal. Indeed, if you look at the Watergate scandal, the journalists who worked on that scandal obtained information by subterfuge, which clearly is unethical in our profession. The Supreme Court of the United States of America ruled that subterfuge can be excused, and indeed was excused in the case of the Watergate scandal because it led to a national good. So therefore, in discussing this Anas Arimuyao Anas matter, what we ought to find out is whether indeed he is serving a national good. And if indeed he's serving a national good, then a normal and ethical practice of the use of subterfuge to obtain information can be excused, as was decided by the Supreme Court of the United States of America in the Watergate matter. Now, from where I sit, I have no doubt in my mind that all things being equal, Anas Arimiyao and his practice serves a national good, and therefore the use or employment of subterfuge in that work is acceptable, is excusable, and I have no qualms with that. Now, having said that, other issues also arise, other important issues also arise. What are we dealing with? And I've heard many commentators create the impression that we are actually dealing with the corruption of the president, the corruption of the Flagstaff House, and the corruption of the NPP administration. I disagree completely. What we are dealing with simply is that a high-profile personality has created the impression or has claimed that there is some corrupt practice in the Flagstaff House involving the president, the vice president, a deputy chief of staff, and some ministers. That claim may or may not be true, and it is only further investigations which would establish the facts to enable us deal with the issue from an empirical basis. So as things stand now, the president has not been accused of corruption. There's no evidence of corruption against the president, the vice president, and the ministers who have been mentioned in this matter. There could be, but as of now, there is none. Now, what is the value of Mr. Nyantechi's words as captured on the tape? What is the value? What is important for me is that Mr. Nyantechi has claimed that he is a financier of the New Patriotic Party, and that indeed he did raise funds for the party's campaign in the last elections. Surprisingly, that claim has not been contested. And if that claim is left to stand, it does give Mr. Nyantechi's words some credibility. Not 100% credibility, but some credibility. Because it establishes proximity to the president and to the party on whose ticket he was elected. So is it true that Mr. Nyantechi is a financier of the New Patriotic Party? Is it true that he contributed substantially to the election of the party? Is it true that he sees the president practically every day and is on first name terms with the president? This is a matter that any investigation ought to establish. Now, for me, there's another claim which establishes that proximity. Mr. Nyantechi allegedly claims that he should have been a minister in the Akufo-Addo government, and that he refused to be a minister in the Akufo-Addo government and actually put forth somebody who is described as his boy, Honorable Anthony Kabu, and that Anthony Kabu became a minister at his instance. Is that true? Is that not true? Now, if that is true, it also establishes proximity and makes his claims more credible than otherwise would be. Now, the other thing which for me is absolutely significant in this discussion is that it does appear that what has become news is rather a tangential matter. The original focus of this investigation was football administration. Now, we are talking about road construction. We are talking about influence peddling in the Jubilee House, Flagstaff House. You understand? We are talking about the integrity of the president, his vice president, and some ministers and so on, which was not the original focus of the investigation. So this happens to be a tangential matter, but an important matter all the same, which has gained a lot of prominence and so on. So, how did this matter come in? How come that those who set out to investigate corruption in football administration veered off their target and plunged into the award of contracts by government? There must be a reason for that. I don't know what that reason may be, but there ought to be a reason for the shift in focus. And that perhaps would also demand some explanation, some investigation, and, you know. Then I've heard comments which have hinged on the fact that the initial announcement said that the president had ordered the arrest of Mr. Nyantechi. The impression that that gave, and still gives, is that the Criminal Investigations Department was working on the fiat of the president. The impression that gives is that the Criminal Investigations Department is not acting professionally, but perhaps acting, you know, politically and so on. Now, for me, there are a number of concerns. The president is president, all right, but that does not take away his citizenship. Rights conferred on all citizens are also conferred on the president, being himself a citizen first before a president. Now, if that were the case, what rights do citizens have when crime is being committed? And in all honesty, we ought to admit that the laws of Ghana empower citizens to effect arrests. There's what is called citizens' arrest. Citizens can draw the attention of the police to crime when it's being committed or when it's about to be committed, and so on. Those are rights of citizens. And the president could have exercised his rights as a citizen of Ghana in drawing the attention of the police to what he may have considered to be a crime, or what he believed to be a crime, or what he believed was a crime about to be committed. And there will be absolutely no problem with that.
In his presence.
Pardon?
The crime being committed in his presence.
Not necessarily in his presence.
That's what the law says.
Not necessarily in his presence.
Because I'm sorry for
Why? If I know, if I come to know that some people are plotting in Togo to commit a crime in Ghana, I still have a right to draw the attention of the police. It doesn't have to be in my presence. You understand? So, if that is what the president did, then indeed there's no problem whatsoever with the president's reporting the matter to the police. However, there are serious concerns which are being raised, and I think it is important for us to look at those concerns. And that has to do with the credibility of the police as an institution, especially the Criminal Investigations Department. Something has happened before. It was treated so lightly. It didn't gain currency. But I think it will keep coming up every now and then when the Criminal Investigations Department has to investigate serious cases of major public interest. And that has to do with the allegation that A+, the musician A+, made with regards to some personnel at the presidency. Indeed, later, A+ played a tape, allegedly being the voice recording of the person who now has assumed office at head of the Criminal Investigations Department. And in that tape, this person actually creates the impression, without doubt, that he's part of the New Patriotic Party and is willing to do everything in her power to ensure that the party is not embarrassed, the presidency is not embarrassed, and so on. Now, for me, it is significant that when this tape was leaked or made available to us and so on, the current head of the Criminal Investigations Department indicated in very strong terms that the tape had been doctored. That is where we left the matter. So far, I do not know of the existence of any empirical evidence anywhere which confirms the allegation that the tape had been doctored. And indeed, if the tape had been doctored in order to do damage to the Criminal Investigations Department and to do damage to the presidency and so on, should we have left it just where we left it, knowing fully well that that would do irreparable damage to a critical state institution like the Criminal Investigations Department? It is because that matter was not pursued further, because if we had pursued that matter further, it may have exonerated the current head of the CIA, or may have indicted A+, or whatever. But in the final analysis, the facts would have been established, leaving very little room for speculation. Because we didn't do that, the credibility of the CID, the Criminal Investigations Department, appears to hang. And therefore, I'm not surprised. I've been reading the papers today. I've read comments by General Mosquito, Mr. Seydou Nketia, General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. Indeed, I've heard comments from my brother, Ambassador Sampi Yali and others, who say that, well, given our history, what can come out of this investigation? That's a legitimate position to take, knowing that history. But indeed, if we had cleared everything up and fully established the facts, we cannot be making those statements now. We cannot be suspicious about the likely outcome, of this investigation. Now, when the order was given that Mr. Nyantechi should be arrested, I made a number of checks with all kinds of contacts. And you do know that in this profession we try to establish as many contacts as we can. And having been in the profession for, I think, more than 40 years, one has established a number of contacts. So I made a number of contacts. And in the pursuit, I found that Mr. Nyantechi was out of town. He was not in the country. And I said, so why this order? Because this order could serve as a notice for him to abscond. I mean, if Mr. Nyantechi decided not to come, it would be because he's been given this information that is likely to be arrested on arrival. Now, I made another check, and that check I made happened to be sources which were close to the lawyers of Mr. Nyantechi. And the information I got was that Mr. Nyantechi would arrive in Accra the following day, and that his lawyers had actually made contact to find out where to take him to on his arrival. Now, the impression you get is that behind all the bluster and so on, behind the scenes, there were consultations, there were actions being taken in order to smoothen the rough edges. That's the impression one got. So then, if Mr. Nyantechi was arriving and was going to be arrested or was going to be handed over to the police, then that speculation that he may abscond and so on loses its weight. Because he would not abscond, he would come and he would go before the police and so on. Now, in analyzing the current situation, in analyzing the present, the past always serves as a useful guide, a very, very useful guide. And in this particular case, I'm not going to go into the far past. I will dwell on the recent past. Not too long ago, all of us were told that certain members of parliament had collected double salary. I hope all of us would remember this, and we should keep that in mind. Now, when MPs were accused of collecting double salary, any time they went to the CID headquarters, whatever statement they wrote, whatever questions they were asked and so on, found space in the next day edition of some particular newspapers and on radio and on television. Now, Mr. Yantechi went to the police CID 2 or 3 days ago. And as we sit, none of us knows what he told the police. None of us knows what statement he made to the police. None of us knows what questions were put to him, and so on. This is most significant. Now, how come that in this particular case, there is a blackout on information? And in the other case, information freely flowed. What is wrong or what is right? I don't know. But it's an important question to ask. In fact, I do recall that when the former ministers were taken to the CID headquarters, making the point that the police CID was setting a precedent which would be very, very difficult to repeat. And here we are, in the case of Mr. Nyantechi, it is very, very clear that he's being treated with standards which are so very different from the standards that the former ministers were treated with. And one can only ask, why? Why is it so? Then there's another angle to the story which I find interesting. It's a very simple question. How come that the president had the privilege of seeing this video? How come that the president was given the privilege of seeing this video? The explanation which has so far been offered is that he was shown the video because his name was mentioned on the video, and that it is important to get his response to some of the things that appeared on the video. Now, I haven't seen the full video. I've seen some aspects of the video and so on. And I dare ask whether indeed all of the people mentioned in the video will have the opportunity to view the video and to have their responses recorded before the 6th of March. Maybe that is possible.
6th of June.
6th of June. 6th of June. Maybe that is possible. And if that is possible, perhaps it would answer some of the pertinent questions which are being raised. But you see, if people had to see the video, why the president first? Perhaps it may be argued that because he's president, he has entitlements and privileges that no other citizen has. But then, are we treating this as a law enforcement enterprise? And if you're treating it as a law enforcement enterprise, then the president has no right which supersedes the rights of citizens. Because one of the cardinal principles of our Constitution is that all citizens are equal before the law. Unless, of course, an argument can be made that presidents are not equal before the law. And if the argument can be made that presidents are not equal before the law, I rest my case on that score. Whatever it is important. Now again, if you look at the whole modus operandi, so one of the key elements in that operation is surprise. You understand? People are caught saying on tape would not be said on tape if indeed those persons are fully aware that they are being recorded for public viewing. So the element of surprise is key in that operation. You understand? Now, if people are mentioned in the videos, and you take the videos to them for their comments and so on, the element of surprise is removed. In fact, it's destroyed completely. That element, which leads people to think that this is a special investigative work and so on, is eliminated and so on. Now, what argument can be made for the change in strategy? What argument can be made for the change in strategy? Is it fairness? And if it's fairness, fairness on what basis? Fairness on what basis? Now, since this matter came up, I've heard all kinds of ridiculous. One of the most ridiculous suggestions that I've heard is that the president, the vice president, and all other persons mentioned in this section of the tape need to step down for investigations to be carried on. I think it's particularly ridiculous. And it's particularly ridiculous because as we speak, no case of corruption has been made against the president, the vice president, and so on directly. As we speak, if even we believe Mr. Kofi Nyantechi, what he's simply saying is that it is possible to influence the president. That's all he's saying. He's saying that it's possible to influence the president based on his assumptions or previous knowledge. That's all he's saying. Now, how does the resignation of the president, the vice president, and those mentioned and so on help improve the quality of investigation? I doubt. I'm not sure. I doubt. I simply doubt how that would help. But you see, very, very interesting things have happened since this expose. Now, one of them, first and foremost, is the order by the president and the subsequent press conference by Mr. Samuel Abu Jinapo, who happens to be the deputy chief of staff, one of the two deputy chiefs of staff. And I would disagree with my brother and friend, my comrade, Mr. Sampi Yali, Ambassador Sampi Yali, because Abu Jinapo is a top-ranking official of the presidency. And nothing stops him from officially commenting on an event which involves the president. The chief of staff could have held this press conference. The Eugene Ahin could have held this press conference. The Minister for Information could have held this press conference. Any one of them could have held this press conference. What is important is whether or not what they say is ethical, is truthful, and so on. That's what is important. It is not their designation. In any case, this press conference was jointly addressed with the Minister for Information. The video I saw had Mustafa Hamid in full view in that press conference. And therefore, I think that the issue of the locus of Mr. Abu Jinapo is another matter, and so on. But you see, at that press conference, Mr. Abu Jinapo indicated, and he's a lawyer, indicated that a prima facie case had been established of what?
False pretensions,
defrauding by false pretensions and so on. First of all, it is clear that primary facie case is not established by the president. He has no locus when it comes to establishing primary facie case. Neither has the chief of staff nor her deputies that locus. They have no locus when it comes to establishing prima facie cases. Prima facie cases, properly speaking, are established by proper courts of law. Not even by defense counsels and so on. Defense counsels make the submission and the courts uphold them and so on. So I would think he could have said that in his view, what has been made available suggests that this has happened and so on. But that would not be a formal process of establishing a prima facie case. And I think it's important that we take note of that. Now, the matters are in the open. They are being discussed by everybody and so on. And I want to raise some cautions. Yes, Mr. Nyantechi allegedly has been caught on tape. Because I need to confirm that. Allegedly has been caught on tape making these claims. And in fact, one of the claims that he is alleged to have made, which I think is very, very serious, is even more serious than the allegation that with $5 million to the president, $3 million to the vice president, and $2 million to the minister and so on, they can control the country. That's what he says. He says, if these monies are paid, they can control the country. My goodness. If you put together all those monies, it comes to about $11 million. And if that is what it takes to control Ghana, then we are in very serious trouble. $11 million to control Ghana with its abundant resources and so on, that's a serious allegation to make. You understand? Then there's the allegation that the whole president is in his pocket. That must be some very deep pocket. You understand? That must be some very deep pocket. But whatever it is, Ghana football is in trouble. Because one of the videos I've seen relates to arranging the friendly match between the Black Stars of Ghana and the United States of America. And indeed, on that tape, the officials admit that the match would be fixed. And it would be fixed by greasing the palms of officials and buying the referee.
It's a very serious matter in any league.
Now, anywhere in the world, even including Afghanistan, just these allegations will be sufficient to ask the GFA chairman to step aside. The allegations, unproven as they are and so on, but they are weighty enough to justify a call on the GFA chairman to take a bow, at least for now. Strangely, the GFA has met and more or less reaffirmed its faith in Mr. KWESI Nyantakyi as its president. Now, I suspect, and I'm using my words very, very carefully, I suspect that there's a banding together. Nobody knows what is on the full tape. I'll be surprised if those who met at the GFA meeting know what is on the full tape. And I honestly also believe in the integrity of Anas Arimuyao Anas. So far, he has not done anything which would undermine his integrity. And let's be honest about it. Now, if the people of the GFA don't know what is coming, and they've seen the same snipers I've seen and so on, the refrain might be that Obi Zaba, Obi Susan Namkwando Roba, and so on. So that banding together is a natural consequence. And that is why the tape should not have been leaked to anybody. Because all of this is happening because people have foreknowledge of what is likely to be on the tape. And therefore people are taking defensive positions. Defensive positions such as the Flagstaff House has taken, and so on. So in the course of this, there's a certain banding together, there's a certain positioning and so on, which can or may eventually undermine the quality of the outcomes. You understand? May undermine the quality of the outcomes and so on. Now, in one of the videos that I saw, the people in the video were not wearing masks. They were barefaced. And I saw people who looked like Arabs. And I saw people who looked like Europeans and so on. I didn't see Anas Arimuyao Anas. Okay. You understand? Now, I'm making a certain point that it does appear that this was teamwork, international teamwork. A lot of collaboration went into this. It seems to me that Anas was an important part of the team. An important part of the team. And I would not be surprised if he played a yeoman's role in this investigation. And I think it is unfair to Anas and his partners to create the impression that this is the magic of one person and so on. Now, earlier on, I read some reports in the newspapers which were most interesting. I don't know if they are true, but I read them. I'm sure some of you read those reports. It was a report of a referee who had allegedly been caught on the tape. receiving bribes to influence the outcome of a match. And the referee said that the claim is that it was an old woman, it was a nurse who brought him the money and so on. He said, no, it's not a nurse. It was an old woman, you understand? And that he thinks that all this has to do with some magic. And that before the woman entered the room to give him the bribe, he doesn't deny taking the bribe, there was a strong wind which opened the door and so on. I mean, this thing is getting to proportions.
It means that he was under the influence of
expectation. Yeah. I've heard all kinds of comments that a nurse can actually change into a woman and so on. Look, I think people were just reckless. And I think that, off camera, people say all kinds of things which may or may not be true. The kinds of things that people say off camera, you can't believe it. You understand? Some of them are so reckless, some of them are false, and so on. And this is the reason why it is important also to treat Mr. KWESI Nyantakyi with fairness. Even those who commit murder have some entitlements. They have rights and so on. This whole practice of trying people in the media is so unfair to persons against whom allegations have been made. And I do hope that we will begin to set a better example and that Mr. Nyantakyi would not be tried in the media. He would not be destroyed and vilified even before the facts have been established. I do hope that he will be treated as a normal suspect and given all the protections that our constitution and laws confer on all citizens. He is not an extraordinary person as far as this matter is concerned. He's a citizen and entitled to all the rights that are given to citizens and so on. So I would be very, very sad if he's tried in the media. The other thing that I hope would not happen is the partisan politicization of this investigation and its outcomes. Because look, in this country, anything that is subject to partisan politicization, if anything is subjected to partisan politicization, the truth gets lost. So I do hope that Mr. Nyantakyi will be given his day with the investigators, his day in court, and judgment day should come. And judgment ought to be seen to be fair to him and all the other persons mentioned in this day. Whatever it is, I would commend Anas Arimuyao Anas, and I'll commend him highly for using whatever methods and so on to make us aware of what happens in the dark corners of our governance institutions. What happens in the dark corners of public administration and so on. People need this information. People need this information to be able to make up their minds about who they choose as leaders, who they throw out as leaders, and so on. And to that extent, Anas Arimuyao Anas is contributing to the entrenchment of democracy in our society, and I think that he deserves commendation. It's important that people do not get carried away, because there's also a strong likelihood that given all the fame and so on which comes along with these things, some people can get carried away. So far, he has not. I don't think that he's been carried away, but it is important to sound the caution, and to sound the caution so that everybody is treated fairly. I mean, last night, I was having a conversation with a group of friends, and one of them posed a very simple question. If this had happened in the Mahama administration, what would have happened? And one of us said, look, there would already have been about 10 press conferences already. And the president would have been dragged right into the center and smeared with everything and anything available. Fortunately for us, that is not happening now. And I get the sense that everybody is calling for sober reflection. And I get the sense that a large number of people who are commenting on this matter are warning us against partisan, political, coloration and so on. And I'm happy about this development. The other point I'd like to make is simply this. I've heard people lashing out at my good friend Kwame Sefakai. And they said that he was okro mouth. And that if he had not gone and sat on Peace FM and said the kinds of things that he said, all of this embarrassment and so on would not have happened. I like to say that that criticism is most unfair. I mean, look, if I were in his position as host of such an important program and so on, and I got this juicy information, the temptation to release it is very, very high. And there's no unethical behavior. Unless, of course, it can be demonstrated that he was given a privilege to see the video and he gave his word and so on. If he has breached confidentiality, that's another matter. But I'm not in a position to say whether he's breached confidentiality or not, you understand. But beyond that, I don't think that he's done anything unethical and that the fire in his direction is probably misdirected. Master Shen, thank you very much for giving me.
Excellent. I think, KWESI, if you allow a minute or so, KWESI raised very important issues and it's a very commendable representation. And the non-politicization. KWESI, you recall, this is about the third time ANAS had come up with this footage or whatever investigative report. The cocoa issue with the customs, etc. And I think in one program years back, some few years ago, we raised the issue about our state institutions. In the FIFA issue, FBI and the investigative division of this, what do you call it, the internal revenue of the US, were at the center of it. So our BNI, intelligence institutions, the CID, does it have to take an ass or a team elsewhere to play this role? And also for the political establishment in using football and overlooking acts of wrongdoings or allegations just because football will enhance their political agenda. I think there are many issues, and so beyond the persecution, or let's even say this is a divine issue that has come up, and we are taking Nyantechi and any allegation made or any act that he had committed out of the issue. This matter really will put football on the focus. And as I indicated, there is a worldwide scrutiny of the way the game is being managed globally. And indeed, the current FIFA administration is very sensitive to that. And all the hangers-on of Blatter, including those who are facing trial in the US, have just left the scene one after the other. Because the billions that are put into the game and the tax concessions that even the US government and these giant multinationals get because of the sponsorship of the game, it's not anything that just overlook and tell you. I mean, so anybody will tell you that we don't need to. Politics doesn't have any role in football. And indeed, the point KWESI made that if some of the issues that will come up or the revelations with respect to match fixing, and match fixing is a serious issue which associations don't take lightly. If you go through the records, just about some few years ago, Juventus were relegated to the second division for 4 years that they didn't need to come back even if they qualified. Teams are banned, suspension, some even get life ban because you can't fix a match. A referee. So let's pray that beyond what will be exposed, nothing is untoward. But if indeed that is it, then people should not band together. They should look at the betterment of the game and where the game has descended to. If I'm in the football fraternity at the management level, the current state of football, for me, at least, is a shame and it's a disgrace. And any act that will really rejuvenate or put this whole thing on focus, devoid of political partisanship, I think it's a tax that all of us must support.
But Prof, the question to ask again is, why the match fixing? there's a whole
That's the art of corruption.
gambling enterprise.
But it's said on the tape
Yes.
that it was for purposes of making millions out of the Asian betting
Markets.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So it's not a question of just the clubs, but for the betting industries. In Ghana now, every corner you see some bet, some bet.
Matches are in progress. You can even go and change your betting pattern. It's a dangerous
That is the
thing.
danger we have exposed our soccer now to. You know, and KWESI, I like the angle that you have put that we should stop politicizing issues.
Yeah,
and
it's
this is
right.
our call all the time. You know, that if you realize that there was this fourth issue, one fourth, and then you remember, 1/4
that Nanado is using now.
the fourth was given to the presidency for somebody who had been given a contract to do a fence wall, a big fence wall. Even the price was lower when it came. They used this so much in their campaign. Now the fourth is being used by them. You know, so it's like when the NDC, MPP is in power, oh, let's be nationalistic, let's avoid political things. But it does not give comfort to some sections of the society. If we are all using this, let it use it.
Everybody 1 minute. Let me just run quickly. I think that my little matter to say here is I'm personally opposed to entrapment as a means of crime prevention, because by way of training, every human being is subject to one form of corruption or the other. One form of it. So where you deliberately entice people to get them to be corrupted, and you turn around and use that same thing against them, it's like God setting you up against yourself. It is a very dangerous form, and that is why if you look, even the courts are very hesitant in using what is often called in the American criminal jurisprudence the fruit of the poisonous tree. You understand? Because the tree itself is poisonous, but there is a fruit that speaks to crime prevention. Would you want to use it or abandon it? Sometimes there is a balancing act that is done, the public interest against the interest of the individual or his privacy. Most judges then take the view that the public interest in fighting crime should be more greater than the individual interest relative to privacy of communication, his home, or what have you. That's the challenge that we have in this scenario. I will never encourage entrapment, because, like they say, what caused the vulture to have the body, whatever, if that seems to happen to another animal, it may lose its head.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's move
Our
on.
judges have suffered it. Even our judges,
Everyone is taking
even our judges have suffered it.
But very briefly, and for me, it's most
It's
important.
important. This topic is very important.
I hear a lot of my friends in the NDC saying that it was done to us. Yes, it was done to you. They made allegations, frivolous allegations in most instances and so on against you. Are you not interested in showing that you are better and that your standards are much higher than your opponent's standards? Because otherwise we will all end up in the gutter. You understand? And there's this old saying that an eye for an eye leaves all of us blind. So yes, it was done to the NDC. So what? Let us begin to set standards now that will endure forever. And show to the electorate that we are better. That you want to get power on account of what you can do for us. To provide potable water for us. To provide education for our children. To provide jobs for our people. To make sure that we take control of our natural resources and so on. And stop repeating what they did.
We are told that people don't eat.
So yeah, we have to move on.
Go ahead.
We have to be fair.
If it comes from somebody like you, it's an
Because you
honest,
have kept that standard.
it's an honest comment. But if we are in a situation where when NDC is in government, all the pastors, reverend ministers, whatever, every little thing, even when they know that it's a lie, even when they knew the allegations against Muhammad, Last time I told you a story of 4 boys who I was trying to see what their political inclination was. 4 boys from the village. What is NDC is corrupt, is incompetent. That's what is the basis of
We lost it. Yeah.
You know, it's a tag that has been hung on all of us. And you see, you have known me all my life that I've never corrupt, I'm never incompetent. But this has been hung on us. Pastors, reverend ministers, whatever, they keep doing this. Even judges sitting in chambers say, loot, creating loot and share, and it hangs on us. But when we are in power, when we are in power, and they are doing worse things, people say, oh, no. But see, when you say it, I take it in good faith. But when others say it, I say, no. When people last year, like 4 years ago, were saying everything against Muhammad, now they are watching Zoo, National Geographic. This is the injustice that we are talking about. You know, I've always insisted that we should be fair.
It's good to expose the injustice.
Yes.
It's good to expose what went wrong. It's good to expose the lies. But don't use the method.
Because you know that NDC's methodology is far better always when it comes to exposing these people. Look, what didn't they do when they came to Jida and confirm and all those things? When they knew what we were saying was not right. They abandoned all of us and called us thieves. That's what I'm talking about. You see, I'm not saying that when
Ambassador, if we don't move on,
we are not moving on. But I want to make the point that these people who are calling themselves, you know, see the fight between Imani and this man. What's his name? Anda. This is their true character.
We are coming to that.
That is their true character. And I urge all of them. I'm saying for this investigation, because see, it's right to get the truth. Fortunately, BBC has got a copy of the film. We shall all see it.
Thank you very much. Still here with us on Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. We have done some 10 minutes into 11. The show is proudly brought to us by TT Brothers. We're moving on to our next topic, but we can't do so without hearing the views expressed by our listeners in the form of tweets and Facebook messages. This one from Patrice Baba Musa says, Bako is in bed with MPP. Anas works under Bako. Why can't Anas be in bed with MPP? Excerpts of video was deliberately shown to Nanado to cover up. We shall see. This one from D'Souza Wogbayi says, the big question is, if Nyantachi is a big elephant, as he claimed, and with the A+ accusation of the CID boss in mind, will anything punitive come out of this whole show? I'm not surprised the GFA boys is still at post. This is Ghana for you. This one from Aaron, Odua Mensah says, Mr. Pratt has raised a very serious question. 3 days after Nyantachi has met with the CID, we have not seen any snippet of the questions in the Daily Guide. Yet we saw CID questions of minority MPs in double salary saga in the Daily Guide. Ghana. In 1999, the CEO of Mitsubishi Motors then said, Rollins is in his pocket. What happened to him? Nyantachi's president is in my pocket. Comment is disgraceful to us as a people. He must not let it go. Who knows what he has used the president's name for in other places. Francis Triumph says, the GFA president only confirmed to the world the type of president in the person of the Nana Akufo-Addo we are having in Ghana. Vincent Saki tweets and says, Uncle Kweku Bako is a betrayer. After viciously scheming everything with Grandpa, he's turning around to behave as though he has been betrayed and trying to put the blame on his cohort Kwame Sevakan, the coffee shop mafia. Funny people, huh? Tulasi Matthias tweets and says, in 2020, no more votes for pocket presidency. This one day one corruption, one day one scandal is sinking Ghana seriously. Habib from Isam says, Sam, good morning to you. There was a certain president who walked to the police station to make a complaint against an ordinary citizen. Who am I? On the face of the earth, which president can be found in Nyantachi's pocket? Anas, may allow you, may Allah, bless you for the expose. Another one here from, Stephen Kwabnatu says, the reality today is that the government of Akufo-Addo is aggressively and fiercely corrupt. Is this the change so wanted? You ask. And okay, let me see. Let me go to Facebook and read some of the Facebook messages there as well before we move on to our next topic. This one from Habib. He says, Sami, good morning to you and your panelists. The corruption and thievery under the watchful eye of President Akufo-Addo is unprecedented, from allegations of corruption in and out of the Flagstaff House, of which the president is deeply involved, so it comes with no surprise when Nyantachi claimed the president in his pocket. Another one from Bright Matthias Dachomo. He says, good morning, Sammy. Having listened to the discussions of the panelists on the show today, I am most certain that this case will go against Mr. Nyantachi, but I heard the president issued a caution against the public discourse on his Twitter pages, on TV3, on the expose, and that has confirmed my suspicions that the president will surely exonerate the same. Quite a very lengthy one. Starring Wendell says, now that the GFA president is caught on tape, would he escape? Okay, the girls this time around, that B would intervene? That's a question that you're asking. Practice Kwame Aristocrat tweets and says, Mr. Shen, Nyantachi in a video said he sponsored Nanado and the president penciled him for road minister, but he rejected it because of football and fixed his small boy, Anthony Cabo there. Is Cabo not the current deputy roads minister? This is not the case of Mamie Nyantachi, but we should rather dwell on the president's corrupt practices. The president is corrupt, though some section of the media put Bible under his armpit prior to the 2016 elections. Therefore, the public workers who would not receive their salaries this month should not be surprised, since the employer is in somebody's pocket. Professor Kwame Aristocrat sent that one through. Enoch says, good morning to you, Sammy, and all your guests on the show. NPP in opposition said they were not corrupt, but now what are we seeing in their government? There is a massive corruption in all the various sectors in their government. Now, Ghanaians have seen the real corrupt party in this country. And you sent that one from Asaman Kese. Musa Abatwa says, President Akufo-Addo in opposition promised to deal with corruption, hence sole sourcing contracts would not happen in his government. Now, corruption cases pop up almost every month. However, Kwesi Nyantachi is being used as scapegoat. The real culprits of this unprecedented scandal are working freely at the Flagstaff House. It's cleverly approached. This is simply just to cover Esla Owusu's GVG scam. That's also on the table. AU Farouk sends the message. Good morning to you, Eshen, and to your panel members. The arrest of Kwesi Nyantachi is a cover-up this super incompetent government, and it will not save the presidency for not being part of the GFA dubious and scandal-ridden government. You sent that one through. Dennis Yakote sends one and says, the only thing that keeps running through my mind, notwithstanding the damning nature of the said allegation against the president and the presidency, and the quick but ill-informed response to same thereof, is that we would have been the situation like if it had been former President Mahama mentioned in the said announced video, in the manner reported, the echelon of the so-called moral society led by some common sense pseudo-clergies would have gone to town unreturned. May the sun of justice never cease to shine upon us. That's from Dennis Akote, and you say shalom, and I say shalom back to you. Let me read this one quickly and move on to the next topic, and this is coming from Hadi from Pig Farm. He says, this whole Nyantachi Buhaha is much ado about nothing. It's a clear diversionary tactic deployed by this government to take our minds off the NCA 89 million scandal. The president, we are told, watched the video last year. Why did he wait till now, when some NCA board members started resigning due to the scandal? That's Hadi's view on the subject we are moving on to this morning. So I will start with you, Ambassador Sampiyale, since you've been wishing to make comments on this matter, and for want of time, please let's respect the time. Let's deal with the story, 10 minutes each, so we can have time to look at the final story this morning, which has to do with the Kelny GVG and the Ministry of Communications contract, which Imani Ghana has been, raising issues about.
Well, listen, for the first time, you seem me a bit emotional and incensed about the discussion. It's because of two things. One, as a Ghanaian, I suffer and I will continue to suffer under a very bad description of my president. I'm a diplomat and I know what this means. So now if you go to Makola, Prof, and then you are talking and somebody say, oh, there was some Mbotum. How come our president has gotten to acquire this name, Mbotum? How? And as a Ghanaian, I'm not happy about it. You know. Secondly, the fact that all these things we are doing, we are unmindful of what we are doing as education to our youth, the youth of this country. You understand? The kind of things that we are doing as teaching our youth is what I lament. See, these days, you don't know what to expect the following day because we are facing an avalanche of corruption on daily basis. Not even, if not on weekly, seconds basis, every day. Because if you go to any part of our ministries, any part of the economy, these things are happening. Whether it is Can Bond, whether it is NCA, whether anywhere. And don't forget that just about 2 months ago, EDUDZI, people were attacking SNET, an institution like Social Security and National Insurance Trust. An institution that has suffered all these years, not being able to pay pensioners on time and everything, has spent time and energy trying to devise a system to pay. We gave it a political twist, DOCU and everything. As of today, what has happened to that? So if in one breath we see something wrong, even though it may not be there, about systems, now the new trend, because people think that all of us are illiterate. So the new trend is about technology. That's where the democracy is shifting now, technology. Look at the noise that were made against the staff, the management of SNET. The injury to their reputation. Here we are. Some time ago, the Mahama administration was advised that some people were making calls and the calls were not being accounted for. Of course, sometimes when you made an MTN call, it came as Snap or Ariba, which were the old entities that the MTN. I myself one day called the attention of the then Minister of Communication, please check this. And sometimes when you make a call or you receive an international call, it comes with a Ghanaian number. So the president then was advised that we should design a system that should trap all this corruption because their only motivation was to avoid tax. So we brought in the Suba info systems. And when the matter came to light, the challenge was, first and foremost, the telcos could themselves manage this. And with the data that they were sending to NCA, that was the same data the Zuba was using. And therefore, there was no need for us to have given that contract to Suba. Even though at that time, in analysis that took place in this same studio, we were able to point out to them that as at that time, the Suba info systems have been able to save about $11 million on Ghana cedis to this country. No, they didn't understand, they didn't agree. Remember, there was even an attack on the Suba premises in the Roman Ridge area, led by Anthony Cabo. Awesome. So, I had forgotten about this Suba thing because it was one of the albatross that hung on the neck of the NDC. And that is one of the reasons why we lost the election. Other reasons were that we had encouraged Zumi Lion to take every contract in this country. That's why? If a Ghanaian does his work well, or if he's not doing anything well, it is for authority to let him do what is right. And all these things went on. Only to hear last week that NCA had given a contract of about $89 million. Mr. Shan, it's not 89 million cedis. $89 million another company to come and do virtually
I'm here today following a very
the
busy
same, for the same thing that they had cried their intestines out when NDC was in power. Well, many Ghanaians who are not into this said, as usual, this is MPP for you. But then you saw their, what the people that come on TV, what's the name? Commentators. Who did not even understand and could not pronounce the name of the company that the contract has been given to. Saying that, oh, the super people were not doing their work well, and therefore we have changed it. Then it took Franklin Kujo, the same Franklin Kujo who was in the Occupy Ghana, to say that, as far as I'm concerned, with the records and documents that I have read, this is a needless duplication of the work that Juba and AfriWave were doing. And that if you were meticulous, we could save all the monies that are being used for the AfriWave, for this new contract. As somebody who have done a little bit of corporate law, I decided that I will cross-check the information that Franklin Kujo had put on there. You know, and these days it's very easy. If you go to the Registrar General and you want to know the background of every company, the information is a public information, they'll give it to you. We then confirmed that indeed this company is a Haitian company, who are from Haiti. Tech cannot give us, Tech, University of Science and Technology, Kofi Annan Center, you understand? We could not even challenge our IT, our young IT professionals, challenge them that, look, these are the problems we are facing. Give us a solution. And I'm sure the young people of this country would have been encouraged to come up with a solution. Is it not recently that some Ghanaian students went to the International World Festival and won the robotics? We have the Kofi Annan Center. We have carried this big contract to a Haitian company. And they said, what is their certificate of incorporation saying? They are importers and exporters of cement. Toilet bowls. What has toilet bowls got to do with IT systems? Toilet bowls, the white thing that we use. What has that got to do with IT systems? And when these people talk, they think every Ghanaian is as stupid as some people. How can you register a company to import and export cement, and then all of a sudden you tend to now go into IT? Lawyer, is that permissible by law? That you are into cement distribution, showing that you have no expertise whatsoever. How can you then turn yourself and say that I am now an IT specialist?
In fact, if you look at the Companies Act, company's object is key.
Very key. Very key. Your object must be established. You know, for what you have said to the
That's
government.
when you list everything. When you are registering.
You know, oftentimes the companies, what they do is to avoid the legal, quagmire. What you do is you give an omnibus last clause.
General services.
General services, which covers you.
But general services in this sense is not IT services. You know, and then if you even look at this one, it does not have anything like general services. So, indeed, when the idea came to the cabinet, I've seen a memo going around saying that the original contractors have petitioned, and it's likely that you have to take account of that. They ignored it and went ahead and gave this thing to the cement contractors to do what they are supposed to do.
Kelowna GVG.
GVG. He said, this morning I was listening to my good friend Nenyi Anda. And Nenyi, you should know that talking as a politician is different from talking as a minister of state. If Franklin Kujo does not know anything, it's not your duty to say that he doesn't know. It's your duty to teach him, not so, so that all of us will learn. But what you yourself were saying was as confusing are the issues that you didn't understand and you were talking about. The issue Franklin Kujo was saying is that, one, the contract that you have given is a duplication. Is it or is it not? Is it not a duplication? You have this. They have paid almost 95%, and it says include marketing and advertising. How much of marketing and advertising have been done on this program? So they think that all of us are illiterate, and therefore they can see anything. But they should know that they have a duty to the youth of this country and their future. All right. And that it is not only their families and friends that are in this country. Why is it that the minister of Slewushu herself is not talking? Why is it that it's under who is on the hills shouting? These days, I am beginning to lose hope in normal investigations. Because if it passes on to the Flagstaff House, they will be cleared. So like they have done before, these two cases, Kosi Yantechi Gate, or Slewushu Gate, they should cause a public TV investigations in which people will be examined, cross-examined, so that all Ghanaians will see it. Because it's everybody's simpwa dama that makes the taxes that people are abusing for their private pockets. All right. Mr. Shan, these days I've said it hurts me that my president will be called Shamboto. It hurts me that these days we don't care about the plight of DSS and SSS students. We don't care about the bad roads. I'm hearing that we are going to spend about 1.5 billion cedis in educating road users instead of using the money to fix the road. If you're a patriotic Ghanaian, you hurt. That's why today I'm a bit emotional.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Sampiale, for your comment. Let me come to you straight, Prof, and take your comments. 10 minutes.
Well, I know maybe I wouldn't even use half of it. And I think the technical issues have been brought out, and I have gone through the issues that Ibani raised, and then the 18th May response from the Ministry of Communications, and then Franklin Kujo Imani, let me use the word Imani, also gave a counter response, if I call it that way. You see, when you go through, the ministry's response will itemize the stages that the government or the ministry went through in contracting these Haitian companies. Well, let me call them Kelni GVG, with origins from Haiti in the Caribbean, and citing laws that have already been passed, the Communication Service Amendment Act of 2013, Act 86 for Electronic Communications Act 209 of 209, that's Act 775, and LI 2234, etc., to justify with a table showing benefits that we will get at the end of it all. Quite apart from raising the fundamental issue about where we're moving as a country and future, this country, the teeming youth who look and go over the star ball, you wonder what the future will be. But like I always say, let's not allow catastrophic events to let us sit up. It may not come to that, because the future of the young people is more important. If we went through, despite all the challenges, I think they deserve a congenial atmosphere to survive. So what are we talking about? And as he indicated, that calls come from abroad, and we are supposed to get 19 cents or 15 or 19 cents or so, and somehow people being smart to survive, they can truncate and government loses revenue. And so we have to find a system by contracting a telecommunication giant or guru company to keep track so that government will get the revenue. You know, what's happening is the lamentation that is this a governance system that the revolution has brought forth? Because governments, and as we see now, can justify whatever they are doing with what they claim rational thinking. And I heard the sad comments from the Deputy Communication Minister on Franklin Kujo, to the point that is ignorant, etc. And as you indicated, Imani or Franklin also means well. And so if you have greater in-depth understanding because you are executing the deal, educate the fellow, or even just say it because you have the media platform, and then some of us can decipher the truth from the untruth. But then you see things are happening from the 2.25 billion all through the certain deals, and we just whitewash it, and can't believe me, by next week, it becomes another matter crops up, and that's the end of the day. You understand? So the question is, can we continue this way? Can we continue as a people this way? Who calls us to order? Look, let me read one item that when Imani's response, and he listed his counter response, or the response to the minister's response, or the ministry's response, and he raises this. Point 10. He said, can we trust a company that is being paid 89 million over 5 years not to have a simple website? When even asks this series, why do they not have search indexes or Google? Technology companies since 1995, they do not have any clients listed on their websites. Why do they domain hosting redirect platform? Even the CIA and the NSA have actual websites with actual information. How do we pay $89 million with automatic renewal of another $89 million over 10 years for an IT company which does not even pay attention to simple and basic website protocols? How come the website of the company was registered only after Christmas last year, even after they signed a contract? And how come not a single engineer or IT specialist of them has their CV anywhere? But perhaps, as you say, they might have registered under general services and have delivered efficiently elsewhere. But for me, the critical thing that we have to raise is the way this country is being governed. And we can only caution that our parliament must also help us. Because the explanation from the ministry has found space in the existing law to justify everything that they've done, citing the various acts of parliament to say that they are doing everything legally. Is that what we want? I don't have the answer. Maybe a future date we shall comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for your comment. I come to you, lawyer.
Okay. Thank you very much. On this Kenny JVG, Government of Ghana, led by the Ministry of Communication and Finance and Kenny JVG on one part. I have had the opportunity of evaluating the contract documents. I am sad with certain aspects of the contract, especially that signed. And as you are aware, the one who signed on behalf of the Ministry of Communication happens to be Madam Esla Owusu, a very respected lawyer. Now, in that document, the parties agree that the contract should be for 60 months with automatic 5 years renewal. So it is automatically renewed for another 5 years.
10 years.
So 10 years. Now, what this means really is that regardless of performance, the contract ought to be what? Renewed automatically. So you want to find out what in God's name will cause Madam Esla Owusu signing such a contract on behalf of the government of Ghana. At least let the renewal be subject to performance and what the person has done. A performance review renegotiation of the terms. Because in 5 years' time, the market dynamics would have changed. You understand? 2, it is also possible that there will be a different government in place. So the dynamics entirely would have changed, requiring that certain aspects of the contract is reviewed. In fact, in terms of the technical viabilities. 2, as you are aware, technology keeps changing. Why? In the last 6 years or 5 years, where was WhatsApp? Look at the dynamics of WhatsApp today. So technology in itself is not static. It's a dynamic system. So where you bind the republic to such a contract and say that even the renewal is automatic, it becomes problematic. 2, if you read the contract, the structure of the contract is a build, own, or build, operate, manage, and transfer contract. You understand? If you have a contract of this nature, my understanding is that the investor goes to look for his own money, builds the infrastructure. Now, the product of his work, he takes his cut from it in this GVG contract. And that is where my problem comes in. Look, the Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who led the attack on the Symptom interoperability platform, what was his claim? He said, under no circumstance should government of Ghana, through the Bank of Ghana, an independent institution, should sign a contract with an entity that bears its cost and only gets to recoup its investment or cost through the tariff or the charges that customers pay. And for that, he calls that to be corrupt, fraudulent. Let me apply the same yardstick to the GVG contract and the inference to be drawn. Under this contract, within 30 days, that's a month after signing, which was in December 27th, 2017. And I'll come back to that part of the signing. Government of Ghana is supposed to pay GVG $1.5 million immediately upon signing. So what it means in fact is that the $1.5 million is what they are going to use to build their infrastructure. So it's no longer a build, operate, manage and transfer, because we are now the people sponsoring the thing. Unlike, for instance, the same thing where you build your own thing, you start and you'll be taking it from the charges on mobile money transfer. This one, government of Ghana commits to pay you $1.5 million for no work done. Today, the NCA board members who are being prosecuted, the basis of the prosecution was they've caused loss, even with equipment that had been delivered and received. They have been prosecuted. In this case, we have given Kenny GVG $1.5 million, even before they even put a server down. We are paying them. Let me run this through another transaction, the Ameri transaction, BOOT. In the BOOT, until Ameri produces power, sells it to ECG. ECG gives it the final consumer. Before VRA, they'll send their bills or whatever you call it to VRA. VRA vets it. It goes to ECG. It's vetted before payment is done. So until they produce power, they sell it to VRA. Gridco passes it on to ECG before they can be paid. That one, the MPP said it was corrupt trading. This one, the man has not done any work. Per the contract, you say immediately 30 days after the transaction, pay him $1.5 million. And we have been paying them to date. The Deputy Minister of Communication confirmed on Asempa that NCA paid part, the ministry paid part. This is the the issue here, let nobody deceive anybody. We understand the contract. I have the contract document with me. How in God's name? Let the people do the revenue assurance. Let them build a platform. It is out of something that you pay them. So that, for instance, you have been able to monitor this number of calls. Or you have been able to revenue, assured this amount of revenue. You are entitled to 10%. You are entitled to 2%. Then you paid. This one, the contract says that you pay them 30 days after the signing of the contract. So, even just by signing, regardless of whether work is done or not, pay them $1.5 million. $1.5 million CD equivalent is how much? So far as we speak, we have paid close to $7.5 million. Bro, what is even more curious is the spirited manner in which my senior brother, George Anda, is defending this matter. Look, when the transaction went through what you call the Central Tender Review Agency or board or whatever, these were their own reservation. And listen, the transaction went 22nd December 2017. How many days for the Easter? For the Xmas?
2 days.
2 days. Do you know that 2 days after the Christmas, 26th, 27th, Madam Esla signed the contract? Why was she in hurry? In fact, it was a holiday. Why was she in hurry? What was the motivation, Madam Esla? Look, on 22nd, the Central Tender Review Committee of the Ministry of Finance had this to write: design, development, implementation of a common platform for traffic monitoring, revenue assurance, mobile money monitoring, and fraud management. Now, I want to read this. The Ministry of Communication is, however, advised to be mindful of a petition in relation to the project submitted to the Attorney General, which the Central Tender Review Committee and the National Communication Authority was in copy. Do you get my point? Ministry of Communication will then proceed with the remaining procurement processes by giving notices of the acceptance, blah, 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 as provided, and keep same record for future purpose. David Quist, Secretary to the Central Tender Review.
Procurement processes.
So the procurement processes. This letter came from the Central District 22nd. So at what time was all this Attorney General petition and others looked into for the contract to be signed on 27th? So you can see the brazen manner in which this whole thing compared to the Ameri transaction, which went to the Parliamentary Committee on Mines and Energy. It was reviewed. The ranking member of the committee, Mr. K.T. Hammond, seconded it. It was brought to the plenary, presented to the entire parliament. Yechere, who was then the chair of the committee on Mines and Energy, moved the motion. K.T. Hammond seconded it before Parliament even gave its ratification. Even with that, MPP said it was ridden with corruption. And look at the brazen manner in which this Kenny GVG contract. And do you know the contract size? It is not 89 million. Please, if you read the report from the Central Tender Review Committee, and this is what it said. We are giving approval, blah, 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 for Mr. Kenny GVG at a negotiated contract price of $178 million exclusive of VAT for a period of 10 years. This is the tender. Right. This is the report. This is the report. So let nobody come and say it's a contract for $89 million. No, it is for $179 million. Do the CD equivalent and see how much this amount is. It's almost over 600 million Ghana cedis for 10 years. So, and the contract is said that it has nothing to do with volume of transaction, with work done, nothing, no value for money. And the curious thing was that it basically more or less went through sole source. Where is the agency for this transaction? Is it only Kenny GBG that can do this work? Because already Suba, AfriWave and others are already in industry players. It was not done competitively to ensure value for money. Nothing. They were just handpicked. In any case, may I ask, who are the people behind this Kenny GBG company? Who are the people behind it? Who are they? Who are the people? Why is the Deputy Minister of Communication defending this with all his power, abusing everybody in the process? Why? Mr. George Anda was a key member of Occupy Ghana. Or say Occupy Ghana. What didn't they do in this country? Uncle Kwesi says we should lift the game. We should set a higher standard. First of all, let's apply their own standard to them. Then we cannot manage a higher standard. It's a fair thing to do. In any case, like the principle says, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. The MPP standard is what I've applied. I've applied it to America. I've applied it to say. In fact, the vice president today is still making that erroneous proposition. What is the basis of describing the interoperability platform to be fraudulent? Even that one, they were not paid. They had not been paid. This one, we are paying them 30 days upon signing of the contract for no work done. Right. So government of Ghana is using taxpayers' money to pay them in the interoperability until the people deploy the platform, until charges come. They are not paid. In America, until they supply, they produce their own power, generate it, supply it to VRA, sells it, they get the money, they don't pay America. But this one, 30 days upon signing the contract, you are paying. If this is not the clearest form of causing financial loss to the state, and remember, from this particular transaction, you will note one thing, and I beg you, at that time when the Central Tender Review Committee purport to have given their approval, they themselves acknowledge that the Attorney General's legal opinion on the matter have not come down because there was a petition pending. Do you know why in the quality grain matter, one of the persons went to jail? Because as a lawyer at the Finance Ministry, he gave a legal opinion on the matter. This one manner, the incompetence, the thievery under this administration, and I can tell you, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo cannot do anything because the person involved is Madam Esther Owusu.
Thank you.
He cannot.
Thank you very much, Lawyer Godwin Ejiji TAMAKLOE, for your submission. Comes straight to you, Mr. Pratt.
Well, I think we have just under 5 minutes. And what can I say? Let me first of all say that these matters need to be looked at with a view to providing empirical evidence for sober public reaction. We cannot leave this matter at the level of shouting and so on. It doesn't help anybody. So we need to find the empirical basis for continuing discussion of this matter. But I'm highly disappointed, especially in the Deputy Minister of Communication and his posture. I mean, this morning I heard a playback of an interview he granted to Radio Gold, and I was exceedingly shocked. Here's the Deputy Minister of Communication saying that Franklin Kudo is ignorant, and because he's ignorant, he has to stop talking on a matter. Look, the Deputy Minister has to understand very clearly that he's an employee of the collective called Ghana. And all of us as citizens, whether we are ignorant or knowledgeable, are his bosses. We are directors. And we have a right to tell them what to do and what not to do. We have a right to instruct them. And we have a right to complain about what they do. They are supposed to be working in our collective interest. So this arrogant posture needs to be dropped as quickly as possible. I'm very, very disappointed in the Deputy Minister. The other thing that I take exception to is this Peshan. Is that how you people call it? You French-speaking people. Peshan. For telling people who complain to go to court. How many Ghanaians can go to court? And who says that court is the only remedy? And he says that, look, when issues happen, we should not sit on radio and raise them in the media. This Deputy Minister, where is he coming from? Why did we fight for media freedoms as well? So that people can express themselves. The media is an important platform for raising these issues. And I'm so shocked at his attitude. I mean, why? He doesn't think that the media is an important platform? Why this disdain for the media and so on? And some of the people working in the media